So, welcome to the regional best practice discussion. This discussion is designed to help franchisees kind of connect with one another in a small way. And today I'm joined by Molly Leader. And before we get into our topic today, Molly, why don't you just introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been with the brand, how many stores you lead, and then maybe one personal thing as well.
Okay, well, I'm Molly Leader. I've been a Subway district manager for 20 years, I guess, and a franchisee for the last 5 years. We have four stores and a couple busier stores, and then two that are a little bit on the slower side. Um, but yeah, it's been my life for 20 years. I have a life outside of Subway, believe it or not, and I've got four or three kids. Four was the fourth is my husband. But I've got a 16-year-old, 14-year-old, and a 10-year-old. So um, I'm busy working
Yeah.
mom, but
Yeah, I
it's
bet. And
fun.
we were talking before the call here, but you said that your kids are doing well. They're back in school. Everyone's healthy, and
Yep,
it's
they're
good to
doing
hear.
good. It's nice to have them back in school because when they were at home virtually, it was difficult for everybody on them and on us. So now we're rolling and we're in sports. We've got one in football and the
Oh,
other one's
good.
going to be in track and a little one in dance. So we're busy, back to being busy, which I missed.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, good. That's great to hear. Well, you were highly recommended for our topic today, and our topic is hiring good people and developing strong managers. We'll probably spend most of our time talking about that last component of developing strong managers. And so, my first question for you is, how do you find good people?
Hmm. Um, that's kind of a three-part question in my mind. Like, how do you start with that process? And we use all kinds of avenues for finding those people. I like to use Facebook to recruit. Using the staff that you have and vocalizing that you're looking for people so that they are also keeping an eye out for people that they might know that are looking for positions. Um, but we use in-store signage, things like that. That's all on the front end. But I think for me, I find the best people for management from within. Um, I generally don't hire, probably 80% of our managers come from current staff.
Mm.
I'm always looking for the next manager with the staff that we have. So I don't often hire somebody off the streets to be a manager. I'm working
Mhm.
with the people that I have and shifting them around, to find the best fit. So,
Yeah, no, that's great. I like that you didn't just give us a silver bullet and say like, "Oh, it's really easy. Here's what I do," right? Because there isn't
mhm,
a silver bullet. But what you did say is that you're looking at your team and you're developing your team, and you're identifying, even if you have a manager in place, you kind of know who that is up next in case they would need to step into a manager role. And I think that's
right.
a great best practice. Um, I'll share a quote with you from our director of operations, Mindy Moyer. She said that Molly does a great job developing independent managers, which is a huge component, I think, of developing a strong leader or developing a manager into a leader. And so, how do you develop strong managers?
Um, I am right next to when I'm training manager, I'm right next to them every single step of the way. And we have the luxury of only having, you know, a few stores. So it's a little different for multi-unit owners that have a large number of stores. But for us, we have the ability to work next to them side by side. And I am huge on explaining something verbally and then demonstrating it for them and then observing them doing it and giving them feedback. And I will do that as long as it takes for them to understand it. So, if they're trying to learn how to do inventory and I have to do it with them 10 times, I will with the right person, starting off with
Sure.
the person that you know is going to succeed at this and then continuing that process and doing it with them over and over again. And you also have to have visual aids to,
Yeah.
you have to have those in place. Here's how you do your daily numbers. Here's how you do inventory, whatever. Um, and then past that, letting them do these things next to you. You know, you show them how to do uh, a write up, doing an employee warning, show them how to do it. and then show them again if you have to, but then let them do it themselves while you sit next to them and give them feedback, constructive
Yeah.
criticism. So,
Yeah. I like that. So exactly what you explained there. I've heard someone describe that as the uh, uh, what is it? It's called the we do you do training method or something like that, where it's
mhm,
not like you're not just giving them a job aid and saying, okay, now do it, or here's a class in Subway University on how to use subinventory. Now go do it, and I expect you to be perfect at it. You might have that alongside what you probably have them use sandwich artistry for training, et cetera. But then you're right alongside with them, giving them the hands-on training and coaching and feedback. And the best definition of feedback that I've ever heard is caring enough about somebody to give them constructive feedback that's going to help them grow. I think it's more natural for us not to say anything, and just allow them to not do it correctly. I know that's not your MO. I know you're gonna tell them if it's not being done correctly.
mhm,
And I think also, even while you're training, and I haven't been there to observe you training someone, but just the way that you shared that, you're also modeling to your managers how to give feedback. And if manage that's a big part of being a manager and being a leader in a restaurant, is being able to share constructive feedback with your team if they're not doing it correctly, not in a negative way, but in a positive way. And you're caring enough about them to show that to share that constructive feedback with them so that they're equipped to do their job well. The second part of that would be about maintaining strong managers. And so you do a nice job with developing those managers. How do you get them to stay for so long? Another thing Mindy shared with me is just you've got a lot of tenure within your management team. And so why do they stick around?
yeah. Well, I truly care about my managers. Obviously you have to have a business relationship, but I really care about them, and knowing what's going on with them is important. But we offer, we do evaluations every 6 months for our managers, give them feedback constantly. The other thing is rewarding them. I think people forget that you have to reward all of your employees, including those managers that have been with you for 5, 10 plus years. And whether or not that's, you know, it sounds silly, but buying them coffee this one morning, or, giving them a gift card saying, hey, I know you had to deal with a really tough situation. Great job. So I do that constantly. We
Yeah.
also we have manager meetings, which we have not recently. It's been a rough year for being able to have face-to-face meetings, but we try to get together with our managers and give them feedback that way and let them bounce things off each other. They love to meet together and
Hmm.
laugh and say, hey, did you have this situation? Yeah, I did. And how'd you deal with it? So that kind of thing. And then I really enjoy we have manager Christmas parties every year but
Yeah.
this year. Um, and we treat them to a nice dinner and gifts. And so you really
Yeah.
need to give them the encouragement through those types of things.
Yeah. That's great. Now, with your manager meetings, I'm curious, you guys meet in a store? Do you meet off site? What does that look like when you're typically having manager meetings?
Yeah, we've done a little bit of both, but as of late, it's usually off-site,
Hmm.
at one of our houses. Just sit
Yeah.
around a table and have snacks and talk. So yeah, pretty informal, but we only have, you know, 4 managers and usually 4 assistants, so it's a small meeting.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, we
Yeah.
enjoy
That's
that.
great. So
Hmm.
you're, and I'm sure you're facilitating peer-to-peer learning as well. And so obviously there's things that you might have an agenda, you might be sharing or teaching into, but then also the managers get to learn from each other, like you said, and share different experiences. And hey, how did you deal with that? And I think that's a big part of just you being a good leader, and a part that's required of anyone that wants to be a good leader. So that's excellent. Um, as we wrap up, is there anything else you want to share with the franchise? It could be on this topic or any topic in general, but any advice that you would give just to the franchisee body?
Leading by example and in being right there with them is just the best advice I can give. And also hiring other good people, insisting that the people that you have aren't toxic, and in creating an environment that doesn't invite good people. You're not going to get good manager applications or good sandwich artist applications if you don't insist on a good environment for them. Friendly people. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that, well, I've made over the last 20 years, and others, I'm sure, is that you're retaining people that aren't creating the environment that people want to apply for and want to be working in. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a little bit of
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah, no, that's wise. I'm curious, have you ever been in a situation where someone did get past the interview and you thought they were going to work out, but then after you hired them, you quickly realized that they were toxic, and how did you handle that situation? I don't need names or anything like that. I'm just curious. How did you handle the situation if that's happened?
Yeah, it happens. You make
Yeah,
mistakes. And you just have to be willing to sit them down and say, hey, this just isn't the right fit for you. You've got to find something else.
yeah,
I don't generally hire somebody on, specifically managers. I don't hire them and say, you are going to be the manager. I usually say, you're going to work your way up. And so I
hmm,
try to start them learning what a sandwich artist does. So I avoid, hiring a manager that I have to let go 2 weeks later. It's generally a
yeah,
sandwich artist. It doesn't end up working out as the manager. That way it's a little bit easier, um,
yeah.
to kind of make them work their way up.
Yeah, that's
So they
good.
can
Okay,
use the
so I
advantage.
think what you said there is if you hire someone, and they wouldn't be a manager, but if you found out that they were toxic, or maybe your manager finds out that they're toxic, and somehow they got past the interview process, you're going to help them find another job. Is what it sounds like, which
Basically,
is
yeah,
good. That's I think everyone has their different gifts and abilities, and not everyone has the gift of working on a team and being in the restaurant industry and in the guest service industry, and so you might be giving them this is a weird way to look at it, but you might be giving them a gift by letting them go so they can go find something different that they enjoy. Because if they're bad at it and they're creating a toxic environment, they very likely don't like waking up in the morning and going to work anyways.
exactly. There's something else for them for sure. But
Yeah, yeah,
I try to not avoid the red flags when I'm doing an interview. That's another thing. You sat down in an interview, right, Mike? And you sat down and you're like, oh, red flag. But then in the back of your head, you're like, oh, but I really need them. Are they breathing? Breathe on this
yeah,
glass.
yeah,
Then you hire them anyway. Um, that's something over many years that I've just tried to remind myself that that's a big red flag. They've changed jobs every 6 months for the last 5 years. You don't need them that bad.
yeah,
Just get in and work
yeah,
yourself if you have to. Don't bring somebody like that in. So
yeah,
that's another thing.
exactly. That's
Don't
good.
ignore the red flag.
Yeah, that's very good. So, Molly, I'm going to wrap up, but stick with me here for a minute as I wrap up the discussion here. I selfishly chose this topic to do this month because we're in the middle of hiring a manager, and I've learned a lot from you. And so I think it may be a better idea to look within our organization. And we do actually have two people within our organization that that really would qualify to be a manager. They're talented individuals, and so anyways, that's why I chose to do this topic this month so that I could learn from you. But I'm sure that the franchisees that are tuning in and listening have learned a lot from you. So Molly, on behalf of all the franchisees that are watching, we thank you for your time, and join us next month for another regional best practice discussion. Thanks for tuning in.